Well, it took a little while, but my jaw literally fell this week in Love is Blind for the first time during season 3. Oh. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review and recap, and I'm so excited to talk more about Love is Blind season 3. This week, we get our first step into weddings, but before that, of course, we got the bachelor party, bachelorette party, and some final dates leading up to the big day. Now we're going to get into both my spoiler-free thoughts and my spoiler recap. You can find those time codes down below, so if you really haven't watched episodes 8 through 10 yet, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel, tap on the bell, and do all of those fun things and get loud in the comments down below, and let me know exactly what you think of this week's episodes. Do you like it more than last week, and which episode is your favorite? Because I do have a favorite episode, and it's the one with all the drama. Alrighty, y'all, so let's get right into it. Like I mentioned, this is week 3, so episodes 8 through 10. In week 4, we're getting episodes 11 and 12. Episode 12, of course, being the reunion episode, so we're not going to have to necessarily wait too long for that reunion. It's going to come bundled with next week's episodes, so I'm pretty pumped about that. Now, let's get into my spoiler-free thoughts, because I definitely have some notes here, so if you're still here and you haven't seen the episodes, it's okay. We're not going to spoil anything, but yeah, there are some things that worked well with this week's episodes and some things that didn't. On a technical note, we mentioned the music being kind of overbearing last week, and it is better this week, I'll be honest with you, but then there's another area that I thought, well, what was the reason for this? And it's this editing. There's this weird fade in, fade out effect that they use very often in episode 8, and I just don't know why, and I think they try to do it again in episode 9, and finally by episode 10 they abandon it, but man, I don't get it. They fade out, then they fade back in. It's like certain moments where you could have just used jump cuts or just lingered on a certain shot, but instead they wanted to get the viewer's attention and maybe make it more dramatic. It didn't work. But at least everywhere else the editing was fine, especially that sizzle reel ahead of episode 8. The way they cut it together was so messy, y'all. And I don't mean messy literally, I mean messy figuratively. Now, like I mentioned at the top of this video, there are some jaw-dropping moments, and I'm really excited to read your comments about episode 9. But that wasn't where the jaw-dropping moment happened. For me, it was in episode 10, where weddings began. That's all I'm gonna say, and boy, let me tell you, my jaw almost locked. I could not believe what I was witnessing. But yeah, there's going to be so much commentary about the way that these couples are acting and interacting before their wedding day. Now, were there more eventful moments in these group of episodes? Absolutely. I mean, we had the Bachelor and Bachelorette parties, we had the final dates leading up to the wedding day, we had some interesting conversation between Cole and Zaneb, but for me, this was a pretty, I would say it was a pretty fun week. However, there were some weird moments where the pacing was uneven. I found that at the beginning and the middle of episode 9. I thought that they had good momentum after episode 8, which was a strong episode, but then episode 9 sorta was wavering up until the end. Right at the end of episode 9 and into episode 10 is where I think the stretch was the strongest this week, and I will tell you, I think it has to do with them lingering a little bit too long on Colleen and Matt. There's actually one conversation that Colleen is a part of, and I won't say with who yet, but it just feels too long. Honestly, they're trying to really harp on the fact that Matt is probably not ready, and now Colleen is a little unsure. So it's interesting to see how they're, balancing those segments. I just don't think they're the strongest, but I will tell you, Alexa and Brennan's segments this week are probably boring, the most boring, I should say, of the bunch. It just doesn't feel like anything is happening there. To be honest, I've felt like that for almost a week now, maybe 2 weeks in a row, where they're probably the safest couple. I mean, if you're going to hedge your bets on any couple to say I do at the altar, it's probably going to be Alexa and Brennan. But this week, again, they were just there. But overall, episodes 8, 9, and 10 are still very fun to watch, especially if you're a fan of this series. If you know what to expect with Love is Blind, I think you'll be satisfied with these episodes. It's just much better than season 2 was at this point. I remember when we got to those final days leading up to the wedding, I just don't feel like season 2 was hitting its stride yet, and that was a problem. But season 3 has already hit its stride, and it's still going relatively strong. But honestly, those are all of my thoughts. Spoiler free, of course, and I can't wait to get into this spoiler discussion. So again, spoilers are ahead. If you haven't seen these week's episodes, go ahead, subscribe to the channel down below, tap on that bell, and go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, and come back and talk more about it, because there's a lot to dive into. So again, final warning, spoilers ahead, and you know what? let's just get into it. The final days are upon our engaged couples leading up to the wedding, so let's check in on them and begin with Alexa and Brennan. Now, I know I just got done letting y'all know they are probably the most boring couple in the show, which is probably a good thing, and also for us that are looking for bad reality television, a bad thing. But Alexa and Brennan are having dinner with Alexa's friends, and it felt in that moment where they were going through the motions and maybe playing it up a little bit for TV, to be honest with you. But I don't know, it was another scripted moment where her friends are saying, well, you know what you're signing up for, and it's like, Brennan at this point has an unwavering love for Alexa. Y'all are not going to shake this man to his cowboy boots. He is going to be just fine. Now, Alexa, I'm wondering, there could be a curveball there, but when they had their segment, even after that, it just feels natural between them. So I think they'll be fine, to be honest, but it is interesting to note that Brennan is so into the point where he's going to convert to Judaism. And I thought, okay, that man is really committed, but how is his family going to feel about that? I'm just curious. Now, he's making his decisions, good for him, but I'm curious to see if maybe the family, like that angle comes into the script in a way where they confront Brennan on it at the last minute. I can see it happening because Love is Blind is messy. And that's all I got so far for Alexa and Brennan in terms of notes, because for as brief as that is, their segments are just brief in general. So let's move on to the next couple, and that's Colleen and Matt. We catch up with Colleen in the ballet studio. The editing was really weird here as well. Remember I mentioned earlier in the spoiler-free section, this whole fade in, fade out effect? I don't know why they weren't just capturing video of Colleen practicing and warming up and then dancing just naturally. Why do you have to do this weird fade in, fade out effect? Because you're trying to spark up that controversy between her and Matt, whether or not Colleen's all the way in, because right now she ain't feeling that way, and then Matt with his temper. So I mean, I get that between them there's still unresolved tension and a lot of questions that have yet to be answered, but I just don't like the way they shot this particular segment. But Colleen reveals that she's 100% in on Matt, and I'm like, all right, girl. And she's still got questions about the wedding. So she's going back and forth here. But we do find out in a conversation between Matt and Colleen that Matt's previous partner cheated on him and got pregnant with another man. So now we can kind of see where Matt's distrust comes in terms of Colleen going out and him not knowing where she is, and then the conversation that Colleen had with Cole in Malibu. So there are certain threads here that are making sense, but I just still don't agree with the way that Matt has handled certain things. And of course, Colleen too, so blame is kind of shifted equally. But yeah, no, this was, at this point I was thinking, y'all, they're setting up for something like a bombshell moment, and well, we didn't really get that. But we'll get to more Colleen and Matt drama in a little bit. Now let's move on to Bartise and Nancy, because can't spell Bartise and Nancy without drama. I'm serious, y'all. They have been, what a couple, huh? Oh my gosh. This season has been wild with them. But Bartise, it's weird. He has a roller coaster of emotions this season, and he started off, at least the first time we saw him this week, he was saying that, yeah, those problems are still affecting him and Nancy's physical connection, and he's distancing himself physically from Nancy. He's almost not able to get over that and their conversation regarding abortion. But Bartise eventually apologizes to Nancy, and as they're reconciling their differences and they understand they have differences on certain topics, they go ahead and say, you know what, let's spice things up and take a salsa class. And I think this is more so about them getting prepped for, if they do say I do at the altar, their dances together at their reception. And I'm gonna be honest, Nancy, she got a little bit of moves here. Bartise, the man needs to get a little lift in his step, you know what I mean? He's a little flat-footed there, but he even recognizes that, man, I'm not a great dancer, so all props to him for practicing though, so that's a good thing. However, Bartise just kept harping on the fact that, he wasn't physically attracted to Nancy, and the whole, their difference in their viewpoints on certain topics when it comes to women's health and abortion. So it's still interesting to see him go back to that, but eventually they break out of it. I don't want to get ahead of myself, however. Let's move on to the next couple, and that's SK and Raven, who I am finding out that y'all are not as supportive, huh? You're not as supportive of Raven and SK as I thought you guys would be, but here we are. So let's get into it, y'all. Raven, essentially, when we see her, she says that she's just over everyone else's drama. And you know what I thought? Good for her. That's pretty mature. And then Alexa basically tells us that Raven would be the worst wife of the bunch. It was weird, y'all. I made that note. I can't remember, to be honest with you, if it was Alexa saying it to another girl or if it was Alexa saying it to the camera. But yeah. I don't know. That just seems like a really catty thing to say, to be honest with you. And then there's the convo about SK and Raven's relationship and being wifey material. It seems like Raven is still feeling the pressure about their families and the way that they are giving importance to their families. So SK really wants Raven's family to be there, of course, and feels some apprehension about them deciding not to be there for the wedding. Raven is saying, well, they won't show up. I've tried, and you just need to focus on me. You're marrying me. You're not marrying my family. And listen, do I get SK's concerns? In a way. But do I get Raven? Yes, because listen, family can be difficult, y'all. And if family is not willing to accept the person that you love and they're unproblematic, then that's your family's fault. They're going to miss out on one of the most important moments of your life, and it is what it is, man. Like, you pray that they'll come around, but you can only help people who want to be helped. And if they don't want to see that they're wrong and the error in their ways, then it is what it is. So I kind of sided with Raven on this one. And of course, we do get more appearances of SK's mother, who is so sweet. So they essentially go and they are shopping for Raven's gele, which is something that you would see in a full Nigerian wedding. It's a headdress of sorts, and listen, it's beautiful. I think Nigerian weddings look gorgeous in terms of the regalia they wear and all of just the vibe. You know what I mean? So it looks good, but you know, you can tell Raven was feeling a little pressured by the Nigerian customs when she had this conversation with SK's mother, the owner of the shop, and I believe a relative or a family member of SK's that was there as well. So Raven, she's feeling a little uneasy here, but we will definitely revisit SK and Raven in just a little bit. We got another couple and our last couple to catch up with, of course, and that is Cole and Zeneb. Now, y'all know that it has been really weird between them, because you got Cole basically admitting to his mistake, but at the same time not, in a way, like telling Zeneb it's not a big deal, and Zeneb is feeling, of course, like she's being left behind in a way. You know, her self-esteem is being attacked, her confidence is being broken down by Cole, her fiance, and that should not be a thing. But Cole apologizes. They have a nice little dinner by the bar, you know what I mean? And you can tell that Zeneb is genuinely still in love with Cole. So Zeneb says, Cole, you're the only guy for me, and I thought that was really sweet. So at that point you think things are good, right? Cole ends up going to this bridge with Zeneb, and they write their names on this lock and they put it on a bridge. It's like a symbol of their love being forever. He dropped the lock into the water as a prank, but it was the dummy lock. The real lock he kept in his pocket and then put it on the bridge. I thought it was a cute idea that Zeneb had, to be honest. But the one thing that's holding up Zay in a way is the fact that Cole's parents want to meet Zay, but only after they're married. It's almost like Cole's parents are trying to do all they can to make Cole feel uncomfortable, and also by virtue of relationship, Zeneb. So Cole's parents, man, it's like, I don't know, at some point y'all got to find that common ground and compromise, because you want to meet her, but you only want to do it after they're married. It's like, I don't know, this feels like a transactional relationship, you know what I mean? So I don't know, y'all, but yeah, we'll definitely get more into Cole and Zeneb in a little bit, because trust me, there are moments we gotta talk about between them two. But let's get into the next section, you guys, and that is wedding dress shopping and tuxedo shopping. And I'm conflicted. And I'm conflicted in the way that they shot the wedding dress shopping, because, guys, it felt like a brief segment, or a segment where they really didn't focus much on the dresses, and it was much more pedestrian versus the men and their tuxedo shopping, where they had some really deep and intimate conversations with one another and relatives and friends. But we did get to see the women try on their dresses, Colleen, Alexa, Raven, and Zeneb, and I will tell you that there were some conversations they had, even though they weren't so deep, that, you know, I can start to see how the relationships are forming even more so. And that's Nancy, first off, telling her mother, I believe it was, that Bartise changed overnight. And maybe she said this in an off-camera interview, but it basically reconfirmed Nancy's love for Bartise. And then there's Nancy's mom's reaction to her daughter stepping out in that dress, and she was bawling, and I thought it was such a genuine reaction. But all the while I was trying to take notes, and I'm thinking, okay, which dress is my favorite? And I'm gonna ask y'all, which dress is your favorite? Because for me, and you guys might agree, I think it's Zeneb's dress. It looked the best. You know, no shade to any of the other dresses. I just think Zeneb's dress was the one that looked the best. So I thought the segment, again, was not substantial, but there's still the guy's side of things, and there's the tuxedo shopping. We see Bartice's sister show up, and she is very skeptical of the relationship, just like Bartice's mother, but you can tell Bartice's father maybe is more on board. However, his sister told Bartice to stop caring about looks so much, and this is where I thought, oh, maybe she's not so skeptical. And if I had to make some weird psychological assessment here, maybe she was skeptical because of how her brother was reacting, all this physical talk, all this looks talk, and to be honest, Bartice's sister kind of dragged him a little bit because, you don't get into this experiment for the looks, you get into it because your love is supposedly blind. So she was trying to school him in a way on the fact that looks don't last forever, and even his looks won't last forever. So listen, I'm like, all right, go ahead, Bartice's sister, I see you. And the last note I have here before we get into the dates before the weddings, Zay's sister apparently can't make the wedding because of a flight situation. So for me, I've definitely sympathized with Zanab this season just to see how sad she gets knowing that, of course, her parents won't be able to make her wedding date, and now her sister can't make it because she does live internationally. That's so sad, it does break my heart. So I sympathize heavily with Zanab here, and at least in this moment, I could tell that Cole was very protective of her feelings and understood, like, okay, let me not do much more to upset her before our wedding. And well, did he do that? Alrighty, y'all, so you know what? Let's go ahead and transition into the last dates before weddings, and we're going to begin with Alexa and Brennan. I can't for the life of me figure out why the producers do not treat Alexa and Brennan with like as much spotlight as the other couples, and it's got to be because there just ain't no drama there. So Alexa and Brennan essentially start the day off by meeting with Alexa's family, and Brennan is learning some more about the Jewish traditions when it comes to weddings, the whole shattering of the glass, the yarmulke that they'll wear. It just so happened to be that Alexa's grandfather, if I'm not mistaken, was present at this little meeting they had at Alexa's parents' house, and man, Grandpa had no filter. Okay, he was going in. But yeah, I thought it was sweet that Brennan was very sensitive to her traditions and understood that, of course, yeah, I want to be respectful and I want to partake in this. So you can see that he's making some compromise. Alexa, I don't necessarily think has been in the position to make that compromise yet, so we'll see what happens down the line. And there was a comment made that they haven't really had major disagreements yet, so that could play into how they treat coming at an impasse. Like, do you overcome the obstacle together, or are you going to try to clash? So it's interesting to see their dynamic unfold little by little, even though we're 1 week away from weddings and the reunion, so go figure. And their major date, of course, before their wedding day was a date inside of a theater that they had rented out, a movie theater, and then they watched their love story on the projection. So sweet, but just felt like a recap of their time on the show, so it was okay. So now let's talk about Colleen and Matt, because they did get a huge chunk of airtime leading up to their final dates before the weddings. And there was a convo that Matt and Colleen had, meeting with the parents, of course, that just seemed like it wasn't going anywhere. To be honest with you, the episode does hit a wall here during this segment, and Colleen again sort of reaffirms that she's not sure if, they're 100% in on getting married together. Her apprehension is that Matt would run, because he has tried to do that 2 times now, so she's not sure if they reach another argument, will he just take the easy route out? And in order to sort of reassure Colleen, Matt takes her to an aquarium, which was a head scratcher at first, up until you see that they're sitting at a table alone, and it is kind of cute. I'm not gonna lie to you, Colleen seemed to enjoy it very much, well, at least the beginning of the date. And the reason I say that is because Matt and her had this conversation, y'all, that went from, oh, not bad, to, oh, this is bad, because Matt is pressuring Colleen to really speak her, on her feelings. Okay, tell me exactly how you're feeling. If we were at the altar right now, what would you say? 100% in, 100% out? I need to know. So Matt is being a little weird here, to be honest. He kept pestering her and said, stop playing games. Say it, say it, say it. I'm like, what, are you bullying her right now? What is going on? Let her speak, and if she's not ready to speak, then she won't speak. But I guess Colleen said, you know what, all right, you want to hear it, I'll reveal it. And Colleen says no to love being enough for marriage, and basically telling Matt that, again, I am not on board yet. And that is gotta be rough for Matt to hear, but also you wanted to hear it, so all right, dog. Now let's move on to Bartise and Nancy's final date before their wedding day, and they decided to go and get permanent bracelets together. Well, this is more of Bartise's idea. And at first I thought permanent bracelets, okay, it's engraved with something, but the jeweler is literally welding together the bracelet on their wrist, so there's no way you can really take that off. And I thought, okay, one, that could be a bad idea if you're traveling internationally or to a place where you feel like maybe I don't want to wear too much jewelry and attract attention. And two, what if y'all don't want to shower with the bracelet on? Like, what? We just weren't getting much highlights in this episode of their date. However, they eventually had a dinner date overlooking some sort of view, and it seemed to be in a building that was pretty high up. Seriously, the location was really inconspicuous. It looked just like another dinner date, but you can tell they were pretty up there. And Bartise just reveals to Nancy saying, girl, I'll still say yes to you. And Nancy, of course, is all the way in. Nancy's been smitten by Bartise since the moment they saw each other for the first time out of the pod. So, you know, I think Nancy, I believe her when she says she's still in. Bartise says he'll say yes to Nancy. I don't know. And speaking of couples who I'm unsure about, well, there's SK and Raven, you know, so there's their differences, of course, culturally, but in terms of their family and how they place importance on family, that is almost a non-negotiable for SK and a negotiable for Raven to a degree. So in order to hopefully make their day before their wedding more nice and natural in a way, like break some of that tension, SK is like, let's go on a date on a gondola in the water with the dude who's maybe playing guitar. He had the guitar, I just didn't see him play it, even though we heard a song with an acoustic guitar, and I thought it was a diegetic sound, but I guess not. So it was very interesting. But Raven on this gondola ride says, listen, I feel our relationship is maturing. They're sharing kisses, food together. They seem in a good spot, right? Well, maybe not, but let's not get ahead of ourselves and talk about now Cole and Zanab, because they also had a huge segment, and boy oh boy did a lot of things start off great and not end well at all. They had their first dance lessons, and I thought that was really sweet. You can tell Cole is really feeling the vibe, Zanab is as well. They're joking around, having a good time. The cinematography was, well, it was going off, honestly. I think this was most likely the most beautifully shot segment of the entire season so far. And honestly, they were editing this segment to make it seem like Cole and Zanab were the strongest couple this season. And hey, props to them, because they were really in a good spot so far. Up until Cole was cooking dinner for Zanab. Zanab gets in the kitchen. Cole doesn't like the fact that she's kind of nitpicking everything that he's doing, but in a way, she's challenging him to be better, so he should have been taking notes. I know I would have been taking notes, and I do take notes about cooking, so it's... I'm like, bro, let's not make this worse, and he went off and made it worse. Cole is acting like a child, of course, and he just solidifies the fact that he's very immature while Zanab is trying to be mature. He pulls out a Nerf gun and fires it at Zanab while they're cooking, and the chicken is literally on the stovetop. I'm like, dog, clearly Zanab does not want to be bothered like this. If you have not read her body language yet, she's not a fan of these immature games. She wants to have fun. She can have fun with you. You both can have fun together. But a Nerf gun while cooking, and not cooking well, I should say, like, that doesn't go well together. But the day leading up to the wedding is weighing on Zanab emotionally. You can imagine she's probably thinking of the family element, about her parents not being able to attend, of course, and it's just, well, it's gotta be tough. This is why I wish Cole was maybe a little less immature, and recognizing that, Zanab, I know your parents have passed, I'm so sorry, I want to make the day leading up to the wedding much easier for you. So if you're gonna cook for her, dog, and she comes in and gives you some pointers, just be an active listener. Learn, take things away. Don't fire Nerf guns, and then have a conversation afterwards where you call her bipolar. This is when Zanab was infuriated. She didn't enjoy Cole's comments, up until the point even when Zay said, you know what, I'm out of here. So Zay gets her bag and she literally walks out. And there's a cliffhanger ending, of course, but we learn that they make up in a way where, you know, Cole apologizes to Zay, and Zay says, I forgive you. I wouldn't be here if I didn't still love you. Let's go inside. So it seems like, okay, they got some things to work out, but that might have saved it a little bit. But before weddings and Love is Blind, of course, you have the Bachelorette and Bachelor parties. Let's begin talking about the Bachelorette party, which at first seemed a little lame. I'm not gonna lie. And if anything, you know what? No, the totality of it was kind of lame. It started off at a pool, and then these two guys came in and barely any clothing and were serving shots, and they were drinking a whole lot, right? But they started airing out some laundry among one another, and Colleen and Zay were airing out Matt and Cole respectively in terms of how they're acting. And I'm like, y'all, if you watch this back together, if y'all end up together and you watch this back, someone's got some explaining to do. And Alexa, again, with her weirdly snakish behavior in a way, tells Zay that she deserves more than Cole. Now, listen. I get that they're having candid conversations, and do we all think, of course, that Zay deserves more than Cole? Up to this point, I do think so. You know, Cole should respect that she's challenging him to be more mature, to think differently, and to have a different perspective, and to be better. And you want to value those people, right, that pull something out of you that you didn't know you had before. Zay, in a way, is trying to do that. At least she's showing signs of that. And Cole is not receiving it. So what do they do after the pool party? Well, they go to a strip club. Ooh, boy, did I have thoughts about this segment, guys. And you know what? Raven summed it up pretty nicely because she was not feeling it. She said it made her miss SK even more. This is not her vibe. She doesn't need this at a bachelorette party. And some of the other girls that were going ham, all right? They were doing some things to these strippers. And I'm like, okay, what is happening? And male dancers, excuse me. I think that's the proper way to say it. But yeah, the male dancers were getting a little close. Getting a little close to these soon-to-be married women. So, well. And don't worry, the guys did not return the favor and go to a strip club themselves. Instead, they had a bachelor party at the rodeo and then followed that up with a visit to the saloon. Now, SK did not decide to join the other guys when they got called into the ring to go and chase some cattle. You know, I think it was Cole who won, right? He got the ribbon from the cattle first, and then they go to the saloon, and Cole is definitely now airing out Zay and their relationship together with Cole's friends. So Cole's friends are hearing all this, and Cole is talking about Zay and how she's got two different personalities, and Cole just wants to be loved more, wants to be like kind of nurtured in a way. And I'm like, Cole, you might need to see a therapist because there's some past traumas you can't get over. And I'm speaking from experience. Don't worry that seeing a therapist helps with these sort of things. And this is the exact moment where Brennan also reveals that he's not sure how him and Alexa will handle their first disagreement. I'm curious about that too, although we might not see it this season because weddings are here. Literally, it's time to move on to wedding day. Oh my gosh, guys. Let's begin with Raven and SK because we only got 2 weddings so far, right? We've only seen a wedding and a half, to be honest with you. And we saw a full wedding between Raven and SK. And guys, now of course, SK's mom makes another appearance and is still so darn sweet. And as we're leading up to this, we're seeing both sides, both rooms. Raven is talking to her girlfriends. Raven is getting really emotional. She sounds like she's still gonna say yes. And then SK is, well, they're planting some seeds that SK might be a little uneasy. However, he's ready for it. At least he said he was ready for it until they get to the altar, where they go and they read their vows, they go through it, so on and so forth. The motions have been passed, and then the pastor asks SK if he says I do. And then SK does the whole I do not. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? This is when my jaw dropped because I thought if anyone was going to say no, it would have been Raven in a way. But it's SK who said I do not. And I thought, dog, what? It was a weird vibe though after he says I do not, because Raven seemed to be taking it well, hugging SK at the altar, kind of laugh crying or smile crying in a way. And I thought to myself, did they talk about this ahead of time? However, when Raven gets behind closed doors, of course with the camera present, she starts breaking down pretty hard. And this is when I thought, oh, okay, maybe they didn't talk about it ahead of time. It's possible that Raven was just trying to put on a face for the guest and then went into the back and, well, she started crying pretty hard. And then she says something that was heartbreaking, y'all. She says she was still planning on saying I do. And I thought at that moment, no wonder. Because in that, I guess her voluntary response was, oh, he said I do not. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to blow up. I'm not going to cry right now. I'm not going to do anything. And then in the background is when she's going to break down. And I do believe even when the camera shut off that she was an emotional mess. And oof, boy, SK dog, for all of the talk that he did, talking about he wants to love her the Raven way, so on and so forth. It must have been that one conversation they had, you guys, about compromise, school, and the fact that Raven would still want SK to pay for her Dallas home, even though he's living in California going to Berkeley. So I do think maybe because he felt she wouldn't make the compromise, there weren't enough reassurances there that he had to say no. And he even mentions it, that there's still a rift between them in terms of their families and how they place importance on their families, but also that the long distance relationship might not have worked. And that leads me to believe something, y'all. When do they cast for this show? Because if somebody's coming into the show knowing they have to leave for 2 years to do their master's program, nothing wrong with that, of course, but you would think that a long distance relationship would be easier to maintain if you had a firmer foundation built in Christ and, of course, in yourselves, right, together. And I guess not. Like, I guess that's not the case with SK. He didn't believe in that. So producers, we got to maybe think about these things when you're casting people. Let's not cast people or let people on the show that have long-term commitments away from their spouse after they maybe say I do at the altar. And the next wedding after that shocker of a ceremony is between Nancy and Bartise. Now this is the half wedding I was talking about, because it's going to trickle into episode 11. So Bartise broke down crying before the ceremony when Nancy sent him a goodie bag of little items that have sentimental value for them in their journey so far. And I thought it was sweet, of course. It definitely had more meaning between them, because Bartise's father looked at that bag and was like looking at his son when he was talking and looking back at the bag thinking like, what is this? But Bartise explains, this is important for us. And then Nancy's dad, came in. Nancy was crying. Nancy's mother was there separately, of course, crying with her daughter. And Nancy was ready. She's just ready to say I do at this point. I really think so. But Nancy's dad has a funny moment walking her daughter down the aisle. He's giving these thumbs up the whole way through, almost like, yes, y'all see my daughter? I'm so proud of her. And I'm like, you can put your thumbs down now. It cracked me up. But guys, we have our first I do of this season, and it comes from who else but Nancy. You thought I was gonna say Bartise? Come on, y'all. They left us on a cliffhanger ending with Bartise's answer when the pastor's like, hey, what do you say? I do. And Bartise didn't really utter a word. It just kind of cut to coming up. I didn't watch that sizzle reel, by the way, because I want to be really surprised with episode 11. But y'all, if I had to guess, Bartise says I do. And now the question is whether they can make it work afterwards, of course. As fans of Love is Blind and a fan myself, we've seen the marriages not necessarily work out, unfortunately, of course, with, couples in the past. Come on, look at last season, right? I mean, look at season 2. That's just your answer for you right there. So let me know what you guys think down below. What does Bartise say? Do you say I do, or do you say I don't? Because for me, I think it says I do. And that is all I got for the spoiler review and recap for episodes 8, 9, and 10, this week's episodes of Love is Blind Season 3. This was a lot of fun. I'm not even gonna lie, y'all. I might have went on some tangents there, but I love providing you guys with my commentary, and I thank you for watching these videos and these recaps and giving me such nice feedback in the comments. I appreciate that, y'all. But you know what? Don't be a stranger. Go ahead and get loud. Let's interact with one another and talk about this week's episodes. And if you haven't already by this point, go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Join the real family, and join me next week for our review and recap for episodes 11 and 12. So tap on the bell so you don't miss out, and hit the thumbs up button, because it does a lot to help this video get in front of more fans' faces. Alright, y'all. Well, you know what? I'm going to decompress. I'm going to go and eat some food, because I don't know. I was talking about, the dinner dates and stuff, and I'm thinking about steak, and do they even eat the food on the show? Because if not, you can hand it off to me, I guess. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.